The courtroom goes quiet. Cameras click, and for the first time, the man who once vowed to defend love in all its forms, Kody Brown, is now charged with violating the very laws he once fought against. The judge's gavel cracks like thunder, and the entire state of Utah watches as Sister Wives becomes reality show turned real-life courtroom pandemonium. Before we get into it, ask me in the comments, do you think Kody was fighting for freedom, or just for himself? The air within the Salt Lake City courthouse is thick, like a storm about to unleash. Rows of journalists sit forward, pens poised, eyes on Kody Brown. He's older now, his signature curls a little grayer, his jaw set tighter, his posture rigid. This is not the brazen, camera-adoring Kody fans recall from Sister Wives. This is a man who has lost control, standing before a system that once looked away and now demands answers. The case is formally known as Brown versus Utah State. But to viewers, it's something more than a court proceeding. It's a fight for identity, for family, and for the right to live as they wish. In front of them sit his wives, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, all dressed in subdued colors, faces expressionless. The courtroom lights cast a cold glow over them, highlighting the distance that fame, heartbreak, and betrayal have carved between them. Christine looks determined, her lips pressed tight. Janelle fidgets with a small notebook. Meri's eyes dart toward Kody, a mix of anger and something softer, maybe regret. And Robyn? She looks exhausted, as if she's been carrying a secret too heavy to share. When Kody's attorney rises to speak, his voice carries through the quiet. Your Honor, my client is not a criminal. He's a husband, a father, and a man whose sole offense is loving 4 women. The judge, cold and impassive, adjusts his glasses. Mr. Brown is accused not of love, he answers, but of knowingly breaking the state's polygamy statutes. This is a matter of responsibility, not feeling. A murmur travels through the courtroom, pencil scratching, camera clicks. Kody's jaw clenches. For years he's explained to the world that his lifestyle was one of religion and family, not defiance. But today, those words sound far away, even naive. The reality is, Kody never thought his struggle for love would become a struggle to survive. The series flashes back to 2010, when Sister Wives originally premiered on TLC. Audiences were intrigued. An openly plural marriage family? It was different, it was daring, and it was highly contentious. But beneath the slick interviews and smiling introductions, the Browns were lying in intimidated dread. Each time a new show aired, Kody dreaded a knock at the door, an arrest warrant, an arrest charge, a threat. Utah's laws were draconian. Even spiritual marriages, couples who weren't legally married but lived as husband and wife, were cause enough for prosecution. And when the cameras made the Browns a household name, the authorities took action. Meri recalled that time vividly. We were frightened, she said afterward, her voice shaking. We wanted to express love, not violate the law. But love, as Kody soon found out, was the riskiest thing to fight for. The family left for Nevada in 2011, saying it was a new beginning. Everyone knew better. They were fleeing. And though the TV show went on, with smiles and barbecue, tension mounted. Kody fixated on showing their lifestyle was legal, moral, and viable. That fixation took him directly into this courtroom all those years later. As the prosecution puts its case forward, the prosecutor's voice is harsh, unyielding. Mr. Brown used television to normalize illegal behavior. He openly claimed to have 4 wives when only one was legally married. This ain't freedom, it's defiance. Robyn leans forward, tears welling in the corners of her eyes. She murmurs to Janelle, who will not meet her eye. Christine's eyes flick towards the door, her face as white as a sheet. Kody stands up in shock. His voice cracks but rings out across the courtroom. We're not criminals. We're a family. You can't punish people for loving differently. The judge slams down his gavel. Mr. Brown, sit down or be held in contempt. The courtroom erupts. Out in the hallway, fans cluster, holding signs, some saying, "Let them love," others chanting, "No man above the law." The world divides. In that moment, Kody understands he's no longer battling Utah. He's battling public opinion, his wife's skepticism, and the shattered reputation of a family once regarded as impenetrable. The prosecution continues, presenting witnesses, previous neighbors, church leaders, even a veteran TLC producer. One producer says Kody wanted fame more than freedom, suggesting the suit wasn't about principle, but publicity. Christine's fist clenches. She recognizes that version of Kody, the one who wanted to be noticed, loved, approved. But she recalls, too, the sleepless nights he paced, fearing the police would seize their children. He's complicated, she mutters to herself, but he's not evil. As the hearing goes into its third hour, tensions reach a boil. The judge declares a recess. The wives exit peacefully, but their tension is louder than any words. In the hallway, there are swarms of cameras. "Christine, do you stand with Kody?" one journalist yells. She hesitates, looking back through the courtroom doors. "I stand with the truth," she replies matter-of-factly, then moves away. That response is the night's headline. Kody Brown turns on Kody, the tabloids light up, social media erupts. And by evening, Sister Wives court case is trending nationwide. Back in the courtroom, Kody sits by himself at the defense table, hands folded. For the first time, he appears diminutive. Not a plural family leader, but a man dreading losing it all. And that's when the twist starts. A legal clerk hands the judge a sealed envelope. The judge reads, frowns, and leans forward. "It seems," he says slowly, "that one of the Brown family members has made an anonymous statement, accusing misconduct within the family itself." The room comes to a standstill. Kody's eyes go wide. Robyn gasps. Meri looks down, shaking. The judge goes on. "If this statement can be confirmed, it will alter the character of these proceedings entirely." "Your Honor," Kody's attorney interrupts, "we need to see that document." But the judge declines. "It will be screened privately first." Reporters dash for the doors to file a story. Kody looks at his wives, looking for answers, but none of them will look back at him. One of them has betrayed him, and he has no idea who. "Who did this?" he whispers. "Who?" The lights dim as flashes of cameras. Outside, a distant thunder drums through the courthouse walls. The fellow who had 4 wives and 1 dream, now has 4 suspects and one something inside this family just snapped. And from here on, nothing will ever be the same. The second day of court is colder. Not because of the weather, but because of the icy silence between Kody and his wives. Cameras click again, but this time, without the smiles. Something had broken yesterday. Something profound. That sealed envelope remains on the judge's bench, and no one has any idea who inserted it. But Kody feels it. Betrayal is sitting right beside him, in a very familiar face. Because in this court, it's not the state against Kody Brown anymore. It's his own family. The morning begins in hush. Reporters whisper of the mystery statement. The clerk won't disclose who wrote it, and the judge instructs everyone to remain quiet until he reads it in private. The wives are now seated apart, not side by side as previously. Christine and Janelle have a quiet conversation in one corner. Robyn dabs at tears, and Meri keeps her arms crossed tightly, head down. Kody's attorney bends over to tell him quietly, "They're breaking formation, Kody. You need cohesion." But Kody can't concentrate. He's reliving every glance, every hesitation, every awkward smile from yesterday. One of those people in that row betrayed him, and the idea of it sears worse than any accusation made in court. When the judge does finally come back, the courtroom tenses up. After reading the contents of the anonymous complaint, he says deliberately, "This court must now take into account new evidence of potential financial impropriety in the Brown family's television contracts." The words slap like a bomb. Journalists gasp. Robyn's hand darts up to her mouth. Christine's eyes pop. "Financial impropriety," Kody exclaims. "What are you referring to?" The prosecutor rises. "It seems there are claims that Mr. Brown diverted family income and TLC production money into secret personal investments. If true, this would be fraud." The room falls silent once more. Then a lone camera click shatters it, like gunfire ringing out over a war zone. The courtroom believed it was love and law, but now it's about money, betrayal, and survival. Kody's attorney asks the judge to review the evidence immediately. The judge complies but permits the prosecution to read the brief passage. The clerk opens the envelope and reads, "He took what belonged to all of us. He said it was for the family, but it was never ours again. A buzz circulates. Kody clutches the table so hard his knuckles are white. He recognizes those words, the tone, the feeling, and immediately he knows it sounds like something Christine would say. His gaze flicks to her, but Christine doesn't bat an eye. She sits facing forward, face cold and unyielding. Your Honor, the prosecutor states, we ask that this be considered as possible testimony subject to authentication of the author. The judge nods. So ordered. We will take a 30-minute recess to confirm handwriting and digital metadata. Kody bangs his chair back. You think one of my wives did that? The judge tells him again. Take a deep breath, Mr. Brown. But Kody's cracking. After everything I've done for them. After all we built together. Robyn rushes over, whispering harshly. Kody, stop please. You're making it worse. He looks at her. The only one still near him. And something shifts in his eyes. Trust is now suspicion. The wives leave the courtroom first. As the doors swing closed, Christine's hand brushes Janelle's arm. A quiet, almost invisible exchange passes between them. A shared glance that feels like a secret. Outside, reporters swarm them again. Christine, did you write the letter? She hesitates, glancing into the crowd, and just replies, no comment. That two-word response sends shockwaves through every headline. Inside the courthouse corridor, tension is like smoke. Dense, strangling, inescapable. One of these women holds the truth, but all are silent. And when the whispers build louder, Kody realizes the courtroom is no longer his greatest foe. It is the silence between those he once referred to as his wives. The clerk is back in session. The letter was printed, but the metadata corresponds to a home computer previously owned by the name Janelle Brown. Gasps spread throughout the room. Kody faces her, shock covering his face. Janelle, you? Janelle does not respond immediately. Her lips quiver, but her gaze is resolute. Kody, I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to what? Implicate me in fraud. Tears well up in her eyes. I didn't send it to hurt you. I sent it because you lied to us. The judge shushes them both. But the harm is done. The courtroom erupts in flashes and whispers. Reporters dash to tweet. Janelle betrays Kody trends around the country within minutes. Janelle goes on quietly. You borrowed money from our shared funds. Kody, you told me it was for land development in Coyote Pass. But I discovered later you spent it on side ventures. Businesses that didn't even exist. Kody's face turns bright red. That's not true. I was trying to provide for our future. Christine jumps in quietly. Whose future, Kody? Yours or ours? Robyn takes Kody's arm and pulls him back down before he blows up again. But her voice trembles as she whispers. Is it true? Kody doesn't respond. He merely sits there breathing fast with his chest rising and falling, as if the very air has turned against him. What began as a battle for freedom has erupted into a war of trust, and the truth is at last bleeding through. The judge requests order and determines to hear the official testimony of Janelle. She moves forward, shaking hands, her voice unsteady until after she takes a deep breath. I adored Kody, she starts. I stood up for him. But when I saw the accounts emptied and the paperwork gone, I knew something was amiss. I confronted him and he said I wouldn't get it. So yeah, I reported to the state. I had to preserve what little there was. The words strike like punches. Christine lowers her head. Meri dabs away a tear. Robyn appears to be on the verge of collapse. Kody grumbles. You've ruined everything. Janelle's eyes tear up. No, Kody, you ruined it the moment you became dishonest. The courtroom falls silent once more. And then, another surprise. The prosecutor rises. Your Honor, the state has been informed that a second anonymous document was filed last night. Another envelope. Another secret. The judge exhales deeply. This court is not a circus, but for the purpose of transparency we will examine it. He unfolds the letter, reading in silence before his eyes involuntarily constrict. This affidavit charges Mr. Brown not only with financial deceit, but with coercion in his marriages. The room gasps. Robyn pales. Christine says in a hushed voice, "Oh my God." The judge goes on. It claims emotional manipulation, isolation, and threat of financial dependency. Kody stands up shaking with fury. Lies, all lies. The judge orders silence once more. But the crowd can't remain quiet. Reporters scramble to verify sources. Fans online go wild with comments. It's no longer a court case. It's a confession. Every deception, every secret hurt, every unexpressed anger is being pulled into the open. And for the first time, even Kody appears fearful of the truth. The day concludes in disarray. Proceedings are adjourned until morning by the judge, but no one departs in tranquility. Kody rushes by reporters, Robyn in tow. Janelle is alone, weeping softly. Christine glances at her, feeling guilt struggle with relief. Storm clouds mass outside, thunder rumbling across the courthouse as reporters cry out queries. No one wishes to respond. In the last shot of the day, Meri exits last. She stares up at the darkening sky and mutters to herself, "It's all coming undone." The next session will reveal who wrote the second letter, and what is in it could tear down everything the Brown family ever constructed. The courtroom was quiet, the kind of quiet that could crush your chest. Christine Brown took the stand, her hand shaking a bit as she gazed straight at Kody. The entire room was staring at her. Robyn even held her breath for a split second. Then, tears shaking in her voice from decades of pent-up anguish, Christine declared, "You want the truth? I'll tell you the truth. Kody betrayed us. He betrayed the law." The room gasped. Kody's face paled. He reclined, jaw clenched, eyes flicking in the direction of his lawyer. For what Christine was about to say would ruin the reputation he had spent decades cultivating. "And that," she said, "is why I had to leave him." The suspense was like a fog in the air. The judge leaned in. Even the journalists ceased writing notes. Christine took a deep breath and started to recount her tale, not only of love and loss, but of what actually went down on Coyote Pass, the land that was meant to bring the family together. She painted a picture how Kody employed the vision of shared ownership to keep everyone in line. He'd drawn maps, cut plots into halves, spoken of the dream, a house where each wife would own a piece of heaven. But then she went on to say, when the documents came through, there was only one name on the deed: Kody Brown. Gasps reverberated throughout the courtroom once more. Meri had her hand over her mouth. Janelle had tears streaming down her face. Robyn fidgeted, knowing that this was only the tip of the iceberg. Christine went on. "He said it was just for legal reasons, but he was lying. He maintained control, while telling the cameras that we all owned it equally." But Christine wasn't done, because the next words she spoke made that courtroom a war zone. She spoke softly. "Kody put that property up as collateral, to take out personal loans, loans that we didn't know anything about." The judge's forehead creased. "Financial impropriety. Are you accusing Mr. Brown of—" Christine nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. He jeopardized all our futures without our permission." Kody banged his fist on the table. "That's not fair," he yelled. "You're distorting everything." The judge stopped him at once, but the harm was done. His tantrum made him look unstable, irate and desperate. Cameras clicked. Murmurs ran through the gallery. Kody had always been the one in charge, but now, in front of an audience of millions that was slipping from his grasp. Outside the courtroom, protesters gathered. Some held signs reading "Justice for the Wives," while others supported Kody, believing the show had exaggerated everything. The TLC crew stood nearby, watching in disbelief. Their golden family, the symbol of plural love, was unraveling live. Back inside, Janelle took the stand next. Her testimony was quieter, more methodical. She wasn't angry, just tired. "Kody used to tell us we were equals," she replied. "But if you didn't agree, you were punished. Emotionally, financially, spiritually." She swung around to address him. "You broke every promise you made, Kody. And now you're attempting to hide behind religion and television." Kody was shaken, but also angry. He gritted his teeth, saying something under his breath to his lawyer. Then Janelle dropped the bomb. "We found an email, one that Robyn sent him, warning that the state might question the legality of their setup. Instead of being honest, he deleted evidence." The courtroom froze. The prosecutor seized the moment. "So you're saying Mr. Brown intentionally concealed documents from investigators?" Janelle nodded. "Yes, to protect himself." And in that one instant, the courtroom shifted from a family fight to a possible criminal case. The Amara crews weren't permitted to shoot inside, but sketches and leaks started popping up on the web. Twitter went wild with the use of hashtags such as #CodyBrownTrial, #CoyotePassTruth, and #Justice for Christine. The whole nation was watching, Folks who had previously tuned in for family dinners and confessionals were now seeing a legal battle. Back in court, Robyn was next. The quiet became oppressive once again. Everyone knew this was the breaking point. Robyn had always been Kody's defender, his confidant, his favorite. If she cracked now, it would all fall apart. But Robyn's eyes were reddened when she took her seat. Her voice trembled. I did not want to be here. I love Kody, but I can no longer lie for him. Kody's head whirled around to her. Robyn, don't. She faced him. You instructed me to move the money, Kody. You assured me that the others would never know. He stood stock still. The courtroom gasped once more. Christine's face turned white. Janelle had her hand over her mouth, and Meri just looked down, shaking her head. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Brown, are you alleging funds were transferred without approval by the other plaintiffs? Robyn nodded slowly. Yes. I felt like I was doing the right thing. I didn't know it was wrong until afterward. And that's when everything really fell apart. Because even Kody's final ally had turned against him. The prosecutor's tone grew sharper. Mr. Brown, do you deny using your wife's money for personal benefit? Kody's attorney objected. But it was too late. The damage was done. The public, the media, even the fans, they'd already reached their conclusions. Inside, Kody's breathing became labored. You could almost hear his heart racing in the courtroom. He spat out, "They were my family. I did everything for them." But Christine spoke under her breath, just loud enough for the mic to pick up. You did everything for yourself. And that's when the judge adjourned. The wives left as one, not a word, but together for the first time in years. The crowd burst into flashes and questions. Robyn paused, looking back at Kody through the glass doors. He was standing by himself, ringed by lawyers and reporters, looking blankly at the vacant seats once occupied by his family. For the first time in his life, Kody Brown learned, power doesn't equal love, and control doesn't equal family. But little did everyone know, the most shocking twist was yet to come. Because buried deep within those loan papers was a name no one saw coming. Someone who had assisted Kody in moving the money. And that someone wasn't a wife, but someone from TLC itself. Cliffhanger to Section 4. Day 2 in court, a new witness arrived. And with them the secret that could take down not only Kody, but the whole Sister Wives empire. The door swung open, and all the heads in that courtroom turned simultaneously. Cameras snapped, whispers swirled up like a tempest. The bailiff spoke softly, but the instant he did, Kody's whole body halted. His eyes grew wide. His mouth dried up. Because stepping into that courtroom door wasn't another ex-wife, wasn't a neighbor, wasn't even an attorney. It was a TLC executive. A man who had established his renown, and now could ruin it. As she climbed into the witness stand, the whole court fell silent. Robyn's color washed away. Christine's hands shook. Even the judge drew a breath. And then she uttered the words that opened Kody's jaw. Your Honor, I'm here because I was part of the cover-up. The news stunned like an earthquake. The gallery erupted into chaos. Gasps, whispers, shouts from reporters off the wooden walls. The judge pounded the gavel repeatedly, demanding order. But the shock couldn't be held back. Kody slouched forward to his attorney, whispering furiously, "What is she doing here? Who called her?" The prosecutor smoothed out their papers, tranquil but lethal. Your Honor, the state calls Emily Torres, former senior producer for TLC. Kody felt his heart drop. He recognized that name. She had worked on the show since day one. The one who videotaped the family dinners. The one who instructed them to smile through the fights. Who once guaranteed, America will love you forever. Emily fiddled with the mic. When Sister Wives originally aired, we wanted to depict love and freedom. But things evolved. The network found controversy sells more than happiness. Her voice quivered, but she went on. When the state started probing into the Browns' money, TLC executives resolved to defend the show. They told me to cut footage, delete legal references, and hide papers that would implicate Kody. Then that was the time everything changed, because it wasn't just a family scandal anymore. It had become a corporate conspiracy. Kody pounded his hand on the table. That's a lie, he yelled, his eyes wild. You're doing this for fame, for revenge. Emily stared straight at him. I have the emails, Kody. I have everything. The prosecutor passed a folder to the judge. It contained screenshots, contracts, and memos. One of them was signed by Kody himself. Christine blinked her eyes shut, mumbling a prayer under her breath. Meri and Janelle shared a glance of shock and relief. Robyn, however, just seemed shattered. Her lower lip trembled as she understood what Emily's testimony was implying. The whole show, their marriages, houses, reputation, had all been staged, taped, and marketed as reality, with the true story kept behind corporate doors. Not only was the courtroom a venue of justice no more, it was a stage where falsehoods at last saw the light. Emily went on, her tone firm now. When Kody was under economic stress, he went to the network. He pleaded with them for an advance. TLC granted it, but only if he would document a special seasons featuring his family's hardship. He consented, and in return he transferred the Coyote Pass land rights, as part collateral. Christine gasped openly. So that's why he didn't tell us. Emily nodded wearily. Yes, you never had that land. TLC did. Kody just kept up the charade that it was yours. The whole room exploded once more. The judge's gavel came down like a cannon blast, but the truth had already destroyed every remaining illusion. Kody's attorney leaned forward. Kody, stop reacting. Let me deal with this. But Kody couldn't keep quiet any longer. You don't understand. I did it to save my family, to keep the show running. Emily's eyes welled up with tears. You did it to save your reputation, and you ruined your family in the process. When she said that, you could feel the air sucked out of the room. Because it was no longer about money. It was about betrayal. At lunchtime, media madness erupted outside the courthouse. Every news network carried the banner. TLC insider confirms cover-up in Sister Wives trial. Fans sobbed. Former cast members spoke out. Leaked sources shared that even some episodes had been recut to cover up legal matters. Within the confines of a conference room, Christine sat by herself, her fingers drumming on the table. It was all pretend, she murmured to herself. All of it. Meri sat down beside her quietly. Perhaps not all of it. We loved once. We attempted. Christine nodded but failed to raise her eyes. We were tales to them, Meri. Muppets on a network string. Meanwhile, in another room, Robyn sat across from her lawyer, her eyes swollen. I didn't know about the TLC deal. He told me it was just a marketing advance. Her lawyer sighed. You may need to testify again, Robyn, and this time you'll need to decide whose side you're really on. She stared through the glass at Kody patrolling the hallway. For the first time she didn't see her husband. She saw a stranger, one who had sold trust for television. When the curtain falls, you finally see who was pulling the strings. In court again, the afternoon session commenced. Emily was back on the stand with one final item of evidence. A recorded telephone conversation between Kody and a network executive. The court played it out loud. Kody's voice was heard, raw and frantic. Just make Christine's portion appear bad. I don't lose control of the story. If she gets away, the entire fan base comes after me. Christine's lips quivered. Tears streamed down her cheeks as her daughters in the back of the courtroom quietly wept. Kody buried his face in his hands. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Brown, did you deliberately manipulate the show's presentation of your wives during an active legal investigation? Kody didn't reply. There was only silence, just the sound of cameras snapping. At last he muttered, they wouldn't get the truth. But the truth had already been spoken, and no one could unhear it now. By nightfall, the judge ordered a delay for reconsideration of the new evidence. The courtroom gradually cleared out, but the atmosphere remained heavy with incredulity. The wives exited side by side, no longer competitors, but survivors. Outside, they were cheered on by the crowd. Christine, Janelle, Meri, cries ringing out on the courthouse steps. Inside, Kody remained still at the defense table. Robyn stood close to the door, crying tracks running down her face. Why didn't you just tell us? She whispered. Kody gazed up at her, his voice little more than a whisper. Because if I told the truth, there would be no show. Robyn shook her head. Then maybe there shouldn't have been one. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking down the hallway, each one sounding like the slamming shut of a chapter. For years Kody thought he could rewrite his family's history. But that day in court, the story finally wrote itself. and it wasn't his anymore. As the sun dipped outside the courthouse, Christine faced a reporter. We never sought revenge. We just sought the truth. And now, everyone finally knows. But as she went out, the prosecutor leaned forward to their assistant. There is one other name on those documents. A person we have not called yet. The assistant frowned. Who is it? The prosecutor answered softly. Someone from within the family. Cliffhanger to Section 5. On the last day of the trial, there's a stunning witness from within the Brown family who testifies. And what she says will determine whether Kody goes free or loses everything forever. The last day of the trial started with the kind of silence that precedes a storm. Journalists waited outside at dawn. Fans walked in clutching homemade signs. Justice for the wives. Free the truth. And even Kody deserves mercy. But inside, there was no clapping, no commotion, only the sound of footsteps, and the gravity of what had been said. Kody Brown sat at the defense table, his eyes sunken, his fingers clasped tightly together. He resembled a ghost rather than the man who had once smiled for millions. His wives, Christine, Janelle, Meri, and Robyn, sat across from him, silent but determined. The room was electric with tension. Everyone knew this was the moment. The final witness, the final opportunity. And when the doors opened, nobody guessed who walked in second. Because it wasn't an attorney. It wasn't a network executive. It was Kody's own son. The room gasped as Kody's oldest child, Logan Brown, walked into the witness stand. He appeared relaxed, but his eyes betrayed him. The eyes of a child who had witnessed too much, been silent too long, and was now ready to voice. The prosecutor stepped forward softly. Logan, can you explain to the court why you're here today? Logan hesitated and looked at his father once. Because someone needs to tell what actually went on behind those doors. Kody's knuckles whitened. Logan, don't do this, he breathed to himself. But Logan went on, his tone firm. I saw my dad balance wives' fame and pride. But off camera, things were different. He instructed us to lie if journalists asked for money. We had to defend the brand. But it wasn't a brand. It was our family. And he sold it. In that moment, every illusion shattered, because the truth wasn't coming from an enemy. It was coming from his own blood. The prosecutor asked, Logan, did your father ever discuss the legal issues with you? He slowly nodded. Yes, he complained that Utah's laws were unjust, that they were targeting him because of what he believed. But then when the investigators arrived, he panicked. He instructed me to hide the ledgers and erase files from the office computer. The courtroom gasped once more. The judge peered over his glasses, obviously shocked. You're telling me you were told to destroy possible evidence? Logan swallowed hard. Yes, sir. I didn't do it though. I made copies, and I brought them here. He dipped into a folder, hands shaking, and handed the papers to the bailiff. Inside were handwritten pages. Kody's pages, detailing moving money from account to account under various names. Kody leapt to his feet, bellowing, that's private family business. The judge slammed his gavel. Mr. Brown, sit down. But the harm was done. Even Robyn, who had devoted years to his defense, covered her face with her hands, and wept silently. You could feel it, the whole courtroom shifting. The moment where truth crushed loyalty. Logan inhaled a deep breath. I loved my father. I still do. But this, he swept his arm around the courtroom. This is not about hate. It's about responsibility. He constructed a house of deceit, and we all lived inside. Christine dabbed away at tears. Janelle nodded slowly, her face proud but devastated. Meri looked away, not wanting to glance at Kody. Kody looked at his son, his head shaking. You don't see, Logan. I did all this to protect us. Logan's gaze faltered for an instant. No, Dad. You did it to maintain control. The room went utterly silent. Journalists typed madly. The judge was visibly shaken. And outside, the world was watching. Millions of people stuck to their monitors, recognizing this was no longer an episode of TV. This was the fall of a family dynasty. Even the greatest families are capable of falling apart, not by foes, but by the burden of their own secrets. Following Logan's testimony, the case was rested by the prosecution. The defense did not put forward any more witnesses. Everyone sensed it. The end was imminent. The judge paused for a very long time before saying anything. Mr. Brown, the court is now going to examine the charges: fraudulent land transfers, obstruction of investigation, and misconduct during ongoing litigation. Logan sat silent, lips clamped together. His gaze flicked from his wives, his old reality, to the son who had brutally torn it down. On the outside, thunder rolled across the drab Utah sky. The judge went on. This court recognizes the emotional quality of this case, but we must rule on evidence, not feeling. He looked at the papers for a final time, then slowly breathed out. On the charge of fraudulent transfer of land, we find the defendant. The silence seemed eternal. Cameras snapped. Robyn whispered a prayer. Christine had hold of Janelle's hand, white-knuckled. Guilty. The courtroom erupted into gasps. Robyn started to sob. Meri put her face in her hands. Christine sat motionless, as though time stood still. Kody blinked furiously, unable to believe what he'd just heard. And just like that, the man who once ruled over 4 wives, 13 children, and 1 million viewers, lost everything. Underscore 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 underfication. Guilty. On the count of misconduct. Guilty. Kody's lawyer whispered frantically. We'll appeal. We'll fight this. But Kody didn't respond. He just stared straight ahead, lost in the echo of the word, guilty. The judge rendered the verdict. 2 years of probation, restitution to his wives, and forfeiture of his last stake in Coyote Pass. Outside the courthouse, there was a cacophony of sound, reporters yelling questions, fans wailing, and camera drones flying overhead. But not in the courtroom. It was curiously silent inside. Christine rose to her feet, went to Kody, and gazed at him. You could have had all of us forever, if you'd just been truthful. Kody's eyes welled up. I thought I was doing the right thing. She shook her head. No, Kody, you were doing the easy thing. She spun and made her way down the marble corridor, her heels ringing out. Janelle trailed behind. Meri gave Kody a single nod before departing, as well. Robyn remained behind, kneeling with him. We can begin anew, she breathed. But Kody didn't react. He merely gazed out at the vacant courtroom, where his life had been dissembled bit by bit. And in the silence, Kody Brown knew. All that was left of his kingdom was the truth he'd worked so hard to keep hidden. Christine stood outside the courthouse, addressing reporters. This isn't revenge, it's freedom. We've lived in his shadow long enough. Now we get to live our own truth. The crowd erupted in cheers. Some were crying. Others waved signs that said truth wins and sister wives free. Inside, Kody finally stood up, looked around the empty courtroom, and whispered, "Tell them I'm sorry." But there was no one left to hear him. The bailiff closed the doors behind him, and the echo of that lock felt like the end of an era. As the credits would have rolled on an episode of Sister Wives, the narrator voice could have stated, families are built on trust, and when that breaks, no camera, no fame, no dream can ever fix it. But this wasn't television anymore. This was real. And somewhere in Utah, while the sun declined behind the Coyote Pass land he no longer controlled, Kody Brown sat alone, just a man with too many secrets and nowhere to hide anymore. In the end, it wasn't the law that destroyed him. It was the truth. What's your take? Did Kody deserve what he got? Or was he another man torn between pride and love? Comment below, and share your opinion, because this tale isn't about the Browns alone. It's about what goes down when the truth is finally revealed.